Now, feminization is a word I've heard before. A word I have been yet to come across until this moment is incelification. So let's figure out what the hell that means. Hey, it's Christine Grace. Welcome back to my channel. Today is another reaction video. Like the video on your way in. Let's get straight into it.
Answer this one question. When was the last time you met someone naturally? No dating apps, not online, but a genuine interaction in the real world. I'm guessing for most of you it was quite a while ago. But if you're
Yesterday.
in Generation Z, it possibly has never even happened. And that's not an accident. Most people we see these days are cashiers, co-workers, people rushing around.
Hang on a minute. Does that not count? Does that not count? I don't like this. From the get-go, it's like, oh, you're not meeting people, but you've spoke to the cashier, you've spoke to the barista. Like, that's still people. What they don't count just because they work somewhere. I got talking to the waitress at the place I went to have breakfast yesterday, and I've gone there a couple of times this week, and I keep talking to the same girl. Turns out she's like a year younger than me. We live in a similar area. I'll keep talking to her. That's cool. Like, what? Oh, that interaction doesn't count because she works there? That's not right.
Delivery drivers. People we pass by, not people we get to know. Interactions are often just transactions. Before dating apps turned relationships into a marketplace, the stage was already set years ago. Just think about an average day. You work from home alone, your groceries get delivered, you tap your phone to pay, no words exchanged. Self-checkout at the shops,
That's a good point.
takeaway dropped to your door by someone who doesn't make eye contact or maybe doesn't even speak the same language as you. It's so easy to go days without meaningful human interaction. Most interactions you do have are transactional unless you're one of the lucky few who finds a club, society, or just something to connect with people. And even then, it's probably shoved into a small corner of your routine. We live in a touchless society, and like anything, if you don't use it, you lose it. Intimacy, sex, and love are just no different. And unlimited access to adult content really capitalized on this moment. You just click, consume, and wrap things up, remove your sexual desire, and move on with your day. Super easy and truly the simplest exchange for pleasure imaginable, really. But it's also shallow, takes away your drive, it's temporary satisfaction with diminishing returns. And like any addiction, you merely fill the gaps without addressing the root causes. And the brain has adapted to all of this. Dating apps started with a promise to breach a gap that most of their founders and investors had started. I mean, get this one of the Tinder CEOs left in 2022 and immediately launched Mino, an AI chatbot to fight loneliness. There's now a thriving loneliness economy that Silicon Valley talks about all the time. There are even venture capital companies that focus exclusively on this. We made a video about the entire loneliness economy before, as it's just the perfect vector for exploitation. Sell people the solution to the problem you helped create. It's the oldest trick in the book, but the impacts are totally new to us. And that's why they're doing so much damage. We're even inventing new language to deal with this. Remember that cringily soulless word "meet cute" that people started using years ago? It popped up on social media as a way to describe meeting someone that you exchange numbers with for a date. For example, at a coffee shop or a bookshop when looking for the same book. Just think about the fact that we actually developed a new word for the crazy phenomenon of just meeting someone organically. It should have set off alarm bells, right? It was an early sign that society was changing in a way that made meeting people in real life the exception and not the rule. It's no coincidence that the word started being used a lot around 2015, the same time dating apps blew up. And in the last decade, dating declined to the point where
That's why this is alien to me. I was 15 in 2015, 14 or 15, so wasn't on dating apps.
majority of Generation Z today just don't know or really have any way to meet people.
50% of men aged 18 to 24 have never approached a woman in person in their life, and like even higher percentage, 18 to 30, haven't approached a woman in the last year.
In recent years, third spaces, meaning not your home, school, workplace, have just vanished. Think about the place that you grew up as an example. Pubs, bars, libraries, high street shops, how many are actually left today? And if any, how busy even are they? Since COVID, we just shuttle ourselves from home to work to the gym to the supermarket and home. You don't really just go to the village market. There is no real town, square or hall. You're not really bumping into anyone. Even a bit of small talk with someone at the bus stop just feels weird and awkward. Making eye contact with someone on public transport will get you a look that leaves you wondering if you're insane.
So much of
what makes somebody good at dating is different now than it was 50 years ago.
You can see it in the way coffee shops have changed. Almost every cafe is bland, empty, just minimalist.
That's true.
Almost as if they're designed purely as a conveyor belt of coffees and customers, getting us in and out as quickly as possible to extract the most amount of money they can. But can you remember the time when a stereotypical cafe was like this? With big sofas,
Somehow Friends has become such a controversial topic in recent years. It's turned into something like Marmite. You either love it or hate it. I love Friends. Friends is my whole childhood. It was always on wherever I went, whether it was at my house or my various aunties' houses. It was just always on. I love Friends. You can fight me on that. I don't care. You can't convince me to hate Friends. I think it's great.
Coffee chairs, bringing people together to talk, and people just walking up to someone to say something without it being creepy. The show Friends was based on just reality in the 90s, and it's all part of a much wider pattern. One that seemingly threatens.
Honestly, like I used to watch these shows and I grew up thinking like, oh yeah, that's probably what my life's going to be like when I'm their age. It's also really weird for me now that I grew up watching Friends and now I'm like the age that they were, which is strange. And I look at my life as a 25-year-old and I look at theirs and yeah, it's completely different. It's completely different.
Humanity.
That this is actually a potentially existential crisis. Humans really do meet the qualification of an endangered species.
Because meeting people and building relationships is really the most important thing for human survival. It's often the key indicator in determining your lifespan. It's how we have replacement rates in just the population. But with this last decade and the disappearance of so many communal spaces where our parents and grandparents had opportunities to randomly meet new people, mixed with dating apps, has meant we're seeing a gap try to be filled that wasn't a natural one. This is a void created by the same economic forces that hollowed out our third space as chains and corporate landlords. The same forces that funded these apps promising to replace what was destroyed. And dating apps didn't discover a gap in the market, one was just torn open and then monetized. But it was a lie. That too was all about getting your money. Think about it, the whole idea of a dating app as a viable business is a paradox. If they actually help people into relationships, they would clearly lose business. One good match is two lost customers, so instead they design the apps to fail, and in doing so keep us hooked on using them. And in turn, what better way to keep an active user base than by having relationships designed to be short-term? This is your capacity to fall in love, to build a family, to find meaning. All your data, all your most vulnerable desires is just slowly converted into swipes and push notifications so someone else can hit their quarterly growth targets. Your relationship is designed to not be long-term. It's why men make up 75% of Tinder users and women just 25%. Interestingly enough, the co-founder of the dating site OkCupid wrote a book revealing what actually happens behind the scenes of dating apps. Women, as you'd expect, receive an average of 4 to 5 messages a week, which even that seems unlikely to be this low. 90% of men received an average of 0 messages. Only at the extreme end of the attractiveness scale do the best looking men receive around 1 to 2 messages.
But there's also a lot of men who are relying on dating apps who are never going to get the matches that they desire, either because they are short or because they are bald.
So as many of us already know, if you're not in the top 10%, there's really no point in using them. It's something that's called mate suppression in practice, and we'll get into that more soon.
And the reality is, for 95% of guys, online and dating apps aren't going to be a fruitful place for them to meet women.
But what we're seeing right now is that Generation Z's entire prospect of finding love is based on the ELO rating system, a numerical method developed to rank players in games like chess. A player score determines how strong or weak they are in relation to others. So your ability to find love is seemingly literally being run through the same maths we use to decide who's good at chess or League of Legends. It's why whenever you join these apps, you get tons of matches, then suddenly they just fade away. You'll be told this is a personal failure, but oftentimes it's not. It's just the platform sorting you to the bottom unless you pay a ton of money. And this created a dangerous dynamic that has now permeated the world of dating, one where women select the same group of the most attractive men who have almost exclusive access to women, who then become less interested in lots of these girls because they are then seen as too easy. The effect of this is that dating is seemingly a low trust marketplace, as the entire way to attract is seemingly detachment and not through connection. It's always a contest of who cares the least, who can take the longest to message back, who's more.
Honestly, I don't. These kind of games that happen all the time is just like, why? Don't take too long to respond. Like, I can't do it. I cannot do it. I can't play the game. If a message comes up on my phone, I'm answering it. If I see it, I'll answer it. If it's something I need to think about, I'll think about it. Then I'll answer it. Like, if someone says, hey, how are you? If you're on your phone, like, just answer it. What's the whole, like, oh, let me put my phone down so that he doesn't think I'm too eager? If you're interested, you're interested. Why have you got to play a game about that?
Or aloof, disinterested in who holds the power in the struggle to not care about the other. In other words, it's a game where almost everyone is bound to lose. You can now see it on reality TV with game shows where heartbreak is entertainment. But what's the message we're supposed to get from this? Romance isn't sacred, it's just a contest, which all leads to the loneliness epidemic, and this one's hitting the youngest the hardest. But it's not just dating. Our whole modern society is stacked against any of us meeting someone getting married or even having children, and the consequences of this will change the world as we know it. Because there's something else catching up with us, our bodies are starting to fail and lose the capacity to produce children at all. You know what they found recently? Microplastics in human testicles. Human testicles contain nearly 3 times as much plastic as dog testicles. We're literally marinating our reproductive organs in synthetic polymers. It's one of the many explanations as to why male sperm counts have dropped by more than 40% since 1970. Average sperm count could even hit near zero at the current trajectory. Even if a situation that extreme doesn't transpire, there are plenty of other things to worry about, like the forever chemicals in non-stick pans and waterproof jackets, BPA in your water bottles, all the nasty chemicals in your shampoo. I mean, just the list goes on. Even simple stuff like drinking hot coffee out of plastic takeaway cups. We just live in a world now saturated with endocrine disruptors. And surprise, surprise, our endocrine systems are getting disrupted by all of this garbage we're pumping into our bodies daily. But even if you've somehow avoided the chemical assault, even if your fertility is fine, there's another huge problem vying against us. How many of your friends between the ages of 18 and 30 have kids? 1, 2, none until this year or last? Is anyone planning to have kids? How about those who said they don't even want kids? We just push everything later and later back. Education, work, financial stability, and for the middle classes especially, that pushes back having a family.
It is a good point. I mean, when it comes to Gen Z, of everyone I know, maybe 2 have children. No one's planning to have children, or if they are, it's something that's spoken about like it's a long, long time in the future. Even a lot of these like traditional sort of Christian influencers I see that are my age, yeah, there's talk of, you know, obviously we're going to have children, but it's like, if you've already been married for a couple of years, like what's the hold up? That urgency, I don't even know if urgency is the right word, but it's not there. You know, it's people aren't having as many children or children at all. Even when I think to the generation before mine, I think about the millennial generation, I think about my cousins. Yeah, none of them have more than 2 children. And it's because it's always sort of pushed back later and later in life. People are having children a lot later. And that obviously is, you know, fine. But if we're talking on a macro scale of, you know, replacement level and stuff, obviously the earlier you start having children, the more you can have.
Because you only have a family when it's really sensible to you, right? That's just the middle class value. Rich people don't worry, and poorer people don't worry. But nothing changes our biological clock when it comes to fertility. Women over 35 are considered advanced maternal age, and honestly 35 is starting to look young to have kids for millions of people around the world. However, at 35, miscarriage rates nearly double. The chance of chromosomal abnormalities skyrockets. Down syndrome risk goes from something like 1 in 1,250 at 25 to 1 in 100 at 40. And it's not just mothers, older fathers contribute too. Men over 45 show increased risk for autism, schizophrenia, even stillbirth in their partners. Having kids into the 40s, 50s, and way higher for men at least is now becoming super common.
Wow, that's interesting. So I didn't think, I know it doesn't affect men as much as it affects women, but I didn't think that the effects were that bad.
Every year you wait, you're rolling dice with higher and higher stakes, but what else do you do? Shrug your shoulders and say it's too late and just plummet towards old age without the family you ever wanted and live an unsatisfying life. Well, if you don't want that, when natural conception fails, you can only turn to IVF. This is often the modern solution, except a single cycle costs $12,000 to $15,000. Add medications, there's another $5,000. And
I don't agree with the whole IVF thing. That's my take. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. I think, you know, if it's meant to be, it will be. If you can't conceive naturally, you have to accept that. Yeah, I'm all about accepting, or at least trying to accept, the natural state of things. And then it's like, if you can't conceive naturally, then question, why do I want a child? Why do I want a child? And, you know, if it's because you want someone to take care of, you want someone to pass on your knowledge of the world, your experiences, there are many children in care that need someone to look after them. But you have to be in the right mindset to do that. If you're unable to obviously do that, then definitely don't. But yeah, personally, something about IVF rubs me a bit the wrong way, and I can't quite yet articulate why that is.
most people need multiple cycles. So you're looking at
It just doesn't feel right. It just feels weird. It feels very strange creating a human being in a petri dish.
around 30,000 to 50,000 minimum, often much more. And this leads down a dark path where we're forced to engineer more of the process of just having kids. Genetic testing in the womb. Testing for Down syndrome is one thing, but some companies will now screen for height and IQ.
Another thing I don't agree with, because why are you testing for it? I can't get on board with that. I can't get on board with testing if your child has a genetic defect. Because why? Oh, my kid has Down syndrome. So what? I'm going to kill it? Oh, I know now that I've got a child in my stomach that's got all of these issues. So what? I'm going to sit through the rest of my pregnancy in fear? I don't see the point in it. For me personally, I could never take that test. I could never, the child will come out how the child is going to come out. And I will love that child regardless. And I will deal with whatever my path is. I can't agree with that test, especially if because I know for a fact in England as well, they offer abortions. They ask you if you want to abort the baby if it's got Down syndrome. And that, oh my gosh, it makes me emotional talking about it. I think that is absolutely disgusting. So disgusting.
It's an ethical black hole on every front for men and women. Women are the child bearers, they shoulder a lot of the risk here, and male dating culture doesn't think about this enough because everyone is turning against each other. If you've seen our video on population collapse, you'll know that fertility rates are just collapsing. Countries like the USA and the UK are seeing the lowest childbirth numbers in their histories. It's not just a stat, it's millions of people who always imagined they'd have a partner and family one day, now quietly aging out to that possibility. Family lines ending not because people don't want love, but because our environment makes acting on that desire impossible. Ask yourself, even if you did meet the right person, what would stop you from having children? Probably not enough money, no chance of being able to buy a house anytime soon. Cost of living is probably too high in your city with food, bills and transport. The cost of childcare is more than your current salary. There are just no good schools in your area or no school places in areas with good schools. Or even just finding a wife that you can trust won't divorce you and take half of your money. It's probably all of the above. It's not just an economic problem. Based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, all the stuff we need like love and marriage and family are just the basics. It's the same importance in life as having food, water, a roof over our heads. The funny thing is that the way this hierarchy was sold to us in the 20th century made it sound like family came after you'd finally self-actualized. You've nailed the career, the money, the personal growth, now for a family. In reality, for most people, that self-actualization replaced family altogether. There was always one more phase of working on myself first, so we ended up with a whole culture optimized for individual self-maximization, while family quietly got pushed off the edge of the pyramid.
Absolutely. He's nailed it there.
Today, most of us, let alone Generation Z, never even get past the bottom layers. Housing, money, community, security, it's all unstable. And when your foundation is shaking, you can't climb to the levels where belonging, intimacy, and family even become possible. The system keeps us stuck in survival mode, but gaslights us for not reaching love. Do you ever lie in bed scrolling through people's social media? The engagements, weddings, honeymoons, kids, it feels like you're watching real life from behind glass as time seems to disappear from under you. And it's not just about missing out on dates, it's that we're missing out on the opportunity to build something lasting. something to have outside of ourselves, something to connect us with beauty in the world. Somehow starting a family is considered a luxury for the rich, a luxury for a select few in society who don't have to worry about the housing market. They don't have to worry about the dating crisis. They own several homes. That money and security is attractive to other women. They don't need to worry about schools. They can send their kids to the best private schools anywhere in the world. And the thing is, this isn't an accident. Decades of decisions driven by corporate greed, short-term profits, and a culture that worships work over family has left us here. Those at the top are allowed to have family. They're able to have more kids. And even then, they're still not having that many. Like an idiocracy, where you'll get these upper-class people debating whether it's a good idea to even have one child. So how can you expect an undervalued, underpaid worker class to ever be able to have the time, money, or even possibility of raising a family? Especially as more and more governments cut childcare, youth services, community centres, third spaces, police numbers, the list just goes on. But the effect down the line is just a less safe, less connected society that is not replacing itself. Huge populations in the entire Anglosphere are just disappearing over time. And this is where it gets interesting, because if you think about the West 150 years...
This is where it gets really interesting. Now, I don't often talk about politics on my channel. I have done occasionally, but it's just, not really my thing these days. However, there is a political element to this that I can't help but notice. If you are in the UK, or if you are watching UK politics from abroad, then you probably know, or if you don't, I'm about to tell you, that we have an immigration problem here in the West, specifically in England and specifically in Europe. I know you guys do in America as well, but it's certainly not on the scale that we have over here. Now, to preface this, we absolutely have an immigration problem. There is far too much illegal immigration in this country. There is far too much, lenient legal immigration. People who are coming here legally but don't really offer anything to the country. Absolutely right. However, one thing I often hear from, Anglo descendants on, within politics is white people are being replaced. And that's often used as a political position to create us and them mentality. The same thing that bothers me with feminism is the same thing that bothers me here. Feminism is all about blaming the men, when really, feminism, if it was actually for the best interests of women, would be focused on women. That includes accountability and self-responsibility. If we actually want what's best for women, then we should be focusing on women. But the whole thing is that it's supposedly about women, but yet all it does is focus on men and how men are the problem. It doesn't take the onus of responsibility, or rather the power of control, into our own hands as women. It doesn't empower us as women to make decisions that are good for us, that we can actually control. It places the control still in the hands of men of, well, men need to change. For me to be liberated and empowered, men need to change. And really, it should be about us having the power to look within ourselves and change ourselves in a way that is going to make us better women. The same thing is true here. So I am finding that a lot of my fellow Brits who are in the political space will place the onus of responsibility of our existence onto the immigrants, onto the non-Anglo descendants. Well, they're coming here, so we're being replaced. So we need to have less of them. And it's more about that than it is about us having more of our own children. Now, I don't really like the whole us and them mindset anyway, but my thing is about the logic of the philosophy behind it. Okay, so let's say we are us and them, and that, we don't all bleed the same blood and we're all very, very different and from another planet. In which case, your focus should not be on having less of something else. It should be on having more of you. Because the stats don't lie. Yes, there is an illegal immigration problem. Yes, there is an immigration problem in general. There are far too many non-Anglo descendants coming over, so much so that it is outweighing the Anglo descendants. But that doesn't mean that the problem of us not having enough of our own children just goes away. That's still there. And my fear is that people will come to notice that when it's far too late. They'll realize that they've been arguing about the other all the while. Sure, we've been deporting all of these people, but all of these communities that come over outnumber us on the child numbers. year on year. You know, the Pakistani immigrants that we have in the UK, the Indian immigrants in the UK, they're all coming over here and they are having lots of children and at younger ages. That's why the replacement levels aren't as bad in those countries, because their culture is still very much about family. So the focus shouldn't be, and now again, this is not me saying that we don't need less illegal immigration. Just to make it clear, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying, yeah, let's open our doors wide and go, yeah, all come over here. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that the focus needs to be equally on our own culture, which is consumerism, which is about getting everyone into the workforce and people not having families, and shifting that as much as focusing on the immigration side of things. I'm going to leave it there because I don't like to get too political on this channel, because it's not what this channel is about. However, it's just a pattern that I noticed, that it's the same mindset as feminism. It's, I don't like my current situation, so instead of taking accountability for my own actions, I'm going to say that it's because of something else. In the same way, you know, illegal immigration is definitely a problem, right? But you can still focus on yourself. In the same way that a lot of feminists do have a point. I know you never thought you'd hear me say that, but they do. There are women who've had awful experiences with really bad men. Doesn't take away from the fact that even if you've had bad experiences with bad men, yes, we should fix those problems. They are still equally important, but that doesn't mean that you have the right to go around being awful to other men who haven't wronged you. So I hope you're following my train of thought here. It's that whole thing. It's the focus being, you know, I'm not saying completely not on the other side. It needs to be there too, but it's not equally on ourselves. And it's like, really and truly, we only really have control over ourselves. So it's actually the most logical and easiest thing to focus on. So why are we not doing that?
Years ago, it wasn't like we were even that much richer. So many people struggled, poverty was rife, the poor worked insane hours, but they still had families, often large ones. So what actually changed? Well, religious communities and spaces, shared culture, social traditions and rituals, these safety nets that help people to share life's burdens, were just erased. Modernity has completely stripped away all the essentials that make replacing your population just a natural part of human evolution. And I'd say the most infuriating part of this fertility collapse is when we're just supposed to pretend that people's decision to not have children is simply a personal choice, and not one imposed upon us by oppressive social structures. This isn't a problem in Africa or other developing parts of the world, and yet somehow the rich West can't even replace its population levels. And we can't just blame the rich and powerful here. Much of the progress we celebrate today is just part of the problem. Because we created a massive middle class, and when you look at who's actually having kids, it's not a straight line from rich to poor. It's a U-shape. The wealthy have kids. Elon Musk has 12 children. Nick Cannon has 12. Robert De Niro just had his 7th at age 79. The working class or populations
Wow, I did not know that. That's incredible.
in poorer countries have tons of kids too. Africa's population is booming. Often when work prospects are lower and pay is worse, kids become a lifeline. Life priorities put family before career advancement because career advancement really isn't on the table anyway. There's nothing controversial about this. This was always what it used to be like before countries became industrialized and the middle class blew up. Families had loads of kids first because infant mortality was high, and second because it means more family income and higher overall child.
Me and my dad often have this conversation, and I say, you know, why do you think it is that people don't have as many children? I mean, his father, my dad's an only child like myself, but his father was one of like 7, I think. I think there was originally 9, but 2 of them passed away. Like he's quite rightly saying, a lot of it was to do with infant mortality rates. But my dad always says it's because there was no TV. So people had nothing else to do. Crude, absolutely crude. But, you know, there's probably some truth to that and the, you know, lack of contraception, which I don't think is a bad thing. I don't really believe in contraception either. I think you can do like natural planning and stuff, but I don't think you should be, you know, if you can't control not having sex, then you probably shouldn't be having it. Like if you are having sex with people that you know that you don't really want to procreate with, like I don't see the benefit. Apart from the fact that, you know, oh well, some people have managed to escape getting HIV, this, that, and the other through contraception. Even still, like that's only a risk if you're sleeping around. for the majority of people.
Breaking their bones to add height to their Hinge profile, or just smashing their jaw open until it looks worthy of more likes on Instagram. It's why
What?
maxing is now a thing.
We're really seeing is that there is like this very, very like deep anger, entitlement. There's like this incel movement. There's this like alpha male, beta male kind of thing. And I don't know if you kind of get this, but there's like a deep sense of like anger.
Men today are more overprotected than ever before, but at the same time less able to be themselves or show vulnerability than ever, with constant mixed messages about needing to be confident and assertive, but also to never make a woman uncomfortable. So when real intimacy feels impossible or dangerous, most people just end up with two obvious escape routes. Adult content, which has now become a type of synthetic intimacy, numbing your core drive in life to Bonnie Blue videos. Or you go the other extreme route, monk mode, with alpha male gurus, where you see influencers taking TRT at just 14 years old to looks max.
So I was like, I'm gonna get my physique going as quickly as possible. I do not care about side effects. I don't care about any implications of, oh, this guy's using drugs. Like, none of that shit really fazed me.
There's even an influencer influenced so much by his love of American Psycho, he offers expensive courses to help young vulnerable men ascend. Even the escape routes offered by these men are roads to nowhere with heavy price tags attached, but they all clearly indicate that there is a crisis happening. They're symptoms that dating is falling apart. And with more and more endless towns and cities designed around roads for vehicles and the loss of communal spaces that once enabled people to meet naturally, free time is just now dominated by screens. We need more exaggerated extreme content, whether it be some crazy looksmack rant or watching 1,000 men line up outside. Yet whenever this issue is talked about publicly, it just sounds like a joke. No one ever takes it seriously, no one even thinks about it. In fact, society will just continue to tell us that biology doesn't matter. Sex, status...
Honestly, I remember telling my parents about the Bonnie Blues and the Lily Phillips when that whole stuff came up about a year ago, and they didn't believe me. They didn't believe that this stuff was true, and I was like, no, like this is happening. This is the world that I live in. Obviously my dad doesn't work anymore, he's retired. My mom doesn't work, she hasn't worked for many years. Like, they're not really in the world in the way that obviously I am. And I have to explain to them, like, no, this is what it is. This is actually what it is. And it's we rub it off. We think, oh, that's just what happens. But it's very strange. It's very strange. It's very dark. It's very twisted. But it's real. It's happening.
Attachments, presence are all just irrelevant. We're now post-animal, caged in our rooms playing out life virtually, deprived of community, ritual, movement, and a necessary bit of chaos and unpredictability, the conditions that our species evolved in. So next time you see falling birth rates across the Western world, when you see the population collapse in numbers, you have to realize that this is manifesting itself through these weird behaviors that we're seeing today. And as we continue to struggle to even replace our current populations, the burden will only get heavier for everyone.
That was a really cool video. Thank you for sending that over. This was from the channel Moon that I've not come across before, but I really, really enjoyed. So definitely go check it out. It's sad because everything in there is true. And I wish I could sit here and offer a solution, but I don't have one. I don't have one because this is the state of things. We kind of have to work with what there is. One thing I've started doing is I've just started messaging people online, being like, hey, I'm trying to meet up with more people. Want to meet up? If I follow someone who I've seen post something that I agree with, I'll just message them. Now, that being said, I'm not getting a lot of responses, which is, I guess it plays into that whole games thing. People like to play games like, oh, I'm too cool to respond to you, I guess, like, or maybe they see my content and they're like, I want nothing to do with this, like, who knows? But I think as individuals, all we can do is just be an open book and try our best. So are you trying? And if so, what are you doing? Let me know in the comments section below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up on your way out. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell to keep up to date with all of my content. If you'd like to support the channel, I'd really appreciate it. The links are in the description below. And as always, take care, guys. I'll see you very soon in the next one. Bye-bye.